We're good. We're good.
All right. That better? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody here today, those in person and also those on Zoom. And before we kind of get started with the regular part of the meeting, I have some comments I want to make. I have been president now for 3 months. I want to reflect on several things that I have learned in these first several months. First, I see how relevant, respected, and needed the league remains today. I've been meeting people from other organizations at different events. There are a lot of groups that have organized the past few months, and they also do good work. But what sets the league apart is our reputation as a nonpartisan organization. We don't endorse candidates or parties. We need to be proud of this and claim it as our power. Secondly, I know several of you during our program planning asked how the league would be addressing the developing issues of our time. In response, I see our national and state leaders responding, standing up, and speaking out. The league has power and is more important than ever. I know they send out a lot of requests for money, but I would urge you still to sign up to receive the updates from the national office. And I will also point out that we're also trying to get those on the website. So if you check the website, you should see social media posts from the national office. But the biggest asset of our league is the dedication of our board members, our committee chairs, and all of the volunteers who freely give their time to help the league in its mission to defend democracy and empower voters. For those that attend the naturalization ceremonies and other voter registration events, to the committees who empower voters by educating them about their elected officials and about what is on their ballot, to those that keep us informed on what is happening in the legislature and our local community, those who go out to tell voters the importance of their vote, those that keep our members informed by social media, our website, and the e-voter, those who help welcome new members, and all those others that I have missed. If you are new to the league, or if you have been a member for many years, you need to remember and celebrate that you are part of a community of remarkable women and men. Okay, I agree. You guys need to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the speech that I did at the John Lewis event, on the John Lewis Day of Action event on July 17th. And I want to do so because I quoted from a blog by Selena Stewart, the CEO of the League of Women Voters, to the league members for Independence Day. And I think it shows the commitment of the league to speak out about the current climate. Okay. The League of Women Voters is honored to be here today to stand with our community and be a part of the John Lewis Day of Action. The League started over 100 years ago as a call to grant women the right to vote. Like John Lewis, who dedicated his life to advancing voting rights for all Americans, the League's mission today is simple: to empower voters and defend democracy. Like John Lewis, we understand that a true democracy only works when every person has the right to participate. John Lewis's efforts to register Black voters in Mississippi and the events remembered as Bloody Sunday raised awareness of racial injustice and contributed to the Voting Rights Act of 1965, a landmark civil rights law that transformed American democracy and prevented discrimination against Black Americans and other voters of color in our voting laws. However, since the Supreme Court rolled back key provisions of the Voting Rights Act in 2013, voting has become more challenging, especially for women and communities of color. And Congress has repeatedly failed to fix the situation despite having the ability to do so. The John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act was first introduced in Congress in 2021 to restore and update the protections of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. But it has failed to advance every single session. Just this year, on March 5th, 2025, ahead of the 60th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, members of the U.S. House of Representatives once again introduced the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. It is endorsed by more than 140 organizations across the nation, including the League of Women Voters, the NAACP, and the ACLU. But even though the bill was referred to a House committee on the day it was introduced, it has not moved since. However, there is a bill in Congress that has passed the House and was advanced to the Senate on April 10th of this year that would make voting harder for everyone, the SAVE Act. Under this law, every single American citizen would have to show very specific documents, like a passport or an original birth certificate, in person when registering to vote and anytime they update their voter registration. This would affect military service members who would be required to present documentation every time they re-register to vote when their family moves. It would affect voters who have recently been impacted by a natural disaster, who may have lost important documentation and would be required to jump through hoops to replace those documents. It would affect Americans who have changed their name, like married women, who would be required to secure updated documentation to register to vote. And unlike the John Lewis Advancement Act, which has not proceeded, that would help voting, instead, the one that is proceeding is the SAVE Act that would restrict voting rights. Selena Stewart, the CEO of the League of Women Voters, said it best in her blog to League members on Independence Day. We are in a constitutional crisis. We've witnessed an administration that defies federal court orders, amplifies voter fraud disinformation while restricting ballot access, allows innocent people to be snatched off the streets in broad daylight without any due process, and uses government power to silence dissent. Courts have rolled back voting protections and civil rights while operating with no accountability to the public they serve. This is methodical erosion of our democratic values and policies, and there has been little resistance on either side of the aisle in Congress. So what are we going to do about it? Can we, as individuals, still do something about this? The short answer is yes. We have to act, and there is plenty still to do. It's time for a revolution in how Americans think about civic engagement. For too long, we've treated democracy like a spectator sport, showing up every few years to vote and then retreating to passive observation. We can draw inspiration from the suffragists who founded the League over a century ago. They understood that democracy isn't self-sustaining. It must be actively defended by each generation because threats emerge in every generation. They didn't win the right to vote by asking nicely. They organized, protested, demonstrated, and refused to cooperate or accept second-class citizenship. Today's threats demand equal commitment and, even more importantly, action. We're asking Americans to join us in showing up in the streets, actively participating in nonviolent civil resistance to change the course of our history at this moment, and holding our elected representatives accountable through sustained advocacy at all levels, local, county, state, and federal. None of us have to do everything, but we must all do something. Our rights are under attack. Our democracy is under siege. We know what to do. Contact your elected representatives and tell them to protect voting rights for all Americans. Tell them to advance the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, the Freedom to Vote Act, and the Native American Voting Rights Act. Tell your senators to vote no on the SAVE Act. Commit to saving our democracy. Attend town halls. Run for office. Dispel mis- and disinformation. Show up at a demonstration or a protest. Participate in economic boycotts. Register voters. Make sure your registration is up to date. In other words, do what John Lewis told us to do. Go out and cause some good trouble. I'm bringing this up. Thank you. And again, a lot of that is attributed to Selena. But one thing I want to talk about is, since I've read this speech, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act has now been reintroduced by the Senate in July. So it was introduced in the House, now it's introduced in the Senate. Let's hope it gets further along than it does in the House. And I also won't go into details today, but just to tell you what else our league is doing, the local league and the state league. You should know that the state league is still a plaintiff in lawsuits working their way through the Missouri court system, dealing with voter registration and ID rules that were adopted by the Missouri legislature through House Bill 1878 several years ago. We want to keep our eye on those. We must also be aware of an issue that is in the forefront right now, not only in Texas, but in Missouri, regarding redistricting. You should know that the league has a strong position on the issue. As stated in a recent post, Selena Stewart indicates that the league has fought for decades to ensure redistricting processes represent voters, not politicians or parties, and we will not stop now. With that said, I'm going to turn the program over to Alice Kitchen, who's going to talk to us about the Gender Equality Task Force. Do I use my purse?
Thank you, Melanie. Can you hear me now? Cheryl, would you pass out the annual reports? The reason I'm here is that the league has a seat at the table of the Gender Equity Task Force that is part of the Kansas City Human Rights Commission. And so the genesis of the task force goes back to 2014. At that time, our city councilwoman, Jan Markison, introduced a resolution in the city council that would require that the city support a convention to eliminate the discrimination of women and girls in all forms. 20 cities across this country have established what we call Cities for CEDAW, and CEDAW, again, is the United Nations Convention to eliminate discrimination against women and girls in all forms.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Allison. That mic is only for the Zoom room, so you'll have to really speak up to be heard in the
Okay,
real room.
okay, all right. So the annual report here will tell you, and I'll go through it briefly, but the reason I'm here is that when the Women's Equality Coalition got the city council to endorse and support the resolution unanimously in 2014, at that time, nothing happened. And so 10 years later, 3 city councils and 2 mayors, on January 17th, 2005, our councilwoman, Melissa Robinson, got the ordinance passed unanimously again. So that ordinance declares that Kansas City is a member of the 20 other cities, none in the Midwest, that are part of meeting the basic standards to eliminate discrimination against women and girls. Now, you may ask, well, don't we have a United States treaty? The answer is no. At the UN, 189 countries around the world signed on and endorsed and annually make reports. We are among, the US is among Palau, Sudan, Somalia, Iran, and the Holy See. And the United States are not parties to this treaty. So now Kansas City is one of those cities, and the basic principles and standards that are part of being one of these cities is that you work to advance women in the workplace, That means wages, salaries, and promotions, and public safety in the environment, in the city, and in general, and then prevention of domestic violence and sexual assault. And so that's our work. We have 3 subcommittees. And can you move that along? Okay, so that's our index. And so move along to the next one. So what we do is we look at women in city government and number of women, 4,900 employees, are in, keep moving that up a little bit. And you'll see the blue is the male and orange is female. So you can see there. And so we have worked to make sure that more women are in jobs that the parity is less. And there's some obvious ones that you would expect. Fire department, public service has more men than women. And we have in our membership, the women in trades, and they're always working to get more women in the various trades. Okay, so that's our work there. City council, we always measure number of women in city council elective and administrative positions. We have had the mayor on our Zoom meetings. We've had the chief of police. We asked hard questions. Why did this happen? Why have 5 women been demoted, fired, or in a toxic environment, or placed in a position where they were not suited? Why did that happen? And of course, it's the city manager's problem, but the city council is responsible for who hiring that city manager. We opposed when he was first in question, and Melissa Robinson was the only person to oppose him or suggest he be fired. The rest of them went along with it. We voted, I mean, we didn't vote, but we entered our position, which was to fire him then. Now, finally, has happened. And we also measure the number of lawsuits that have to do with employees, especially women and minorities. And so these charts that are in the annual report, where does it go?
We're getting there, we're getting there.
Okay, so in the area of public safety, we have worked with MOXA and organizations around identifying hotspots and green spots and ways that we can be standby observers and witnesses. And that also we push for the subtag crime prevention through environmental design, which now is happening. Raina Park Shaw has been very instrumental in making that part of the regular city government. The other thing that we got done, well, let me just mention 3 things that have been actions. We got the city manager to do a wage study. And in 2021, Siegel did the wage study and it was reported. However, even though I had edited the request for proposal, which is what sent out to applicants to do the work, they studied every employee except those in union. Union members are paid the same for the same work. So, but what we got was lots of information, but what we didn't get was equity. And equity is you get paid for your skills, your education, and your experience. And that, I think, is the same as equality. So what we were looking for is that equity. And so that was our critique. We gave a 2.5 single-space critique on that. So now we're back to, where are we now? Public safety. And then the most difficult of all of these is prevention of domestic violence and sexual assault. And those areas really fall outside of city government in some ways, but not for us. So we have a subcommittee that is working on that. We've worked with the chief of police. We have worked with and complained about things about how women have been treated in law enforcement. And we've suggested training tools to be used. And we have also met with our new prosecutor, and we have focused in on cases that were taken to the prosecutor and not pursued. What that means to me is that if you take a case and they won't take it to court, well, they will say, the prosecutors will say, we don't have enough evidence and we can't win the case. And I say, this is not golf. This is real people. These are real cases. So those cases are the ones that we're going to focus on. Those that are dropped, but have real situations and are at risk. Also, we know that prevention, we've done an asset mapping grid to find out what the services are across the continuum, and what's missing. So what's missing is prevention, obvious, and then also those areas that we targeted, and survivors. What we really need is a survivor group led by survivors, independent of agencies, but running their own program and listening to them. And we're going to have a listening session in October. And so that those are the kind of things that we're doing. And we have passed, Scott Wagner was able to pass a salary history elimination. And what that means for all applicants of jobs or people looking for new jobs from existing jobs is that you don't have to check the box on what your salary is now. You don't have to say what it is. You just have to say, or I suggest that you say, what is the range of the job you have now that you're offering or I'm looking at? So that matters for people out of the workforce coming back, women who return from child rearing, and also people who've been fired or laid off. You don't have to say what it is. And that's citywide, and we're one of a few, but maybe 26 states that have done that. We also, as I said, got the gender study passed, and now with this new council and with the new ordinance, we have been able to find $150,000 to do a new, and what we're calling is a race and gender wage study. And so I'm working with the HR on the actual request for proposal to make sure it says what we really need it to say. Now, in that work of the ordinance, and you have had previous members, part of our group. John Du Bois was one in the very beginning, and Cindy Augustine, and now Cheryl Barnes. She has been at the table when Melissa Robinson, Terry Casey, HR, Assistant City Manager Kelly Postaway, the auditors, both auditors, the new auditor and Beth Pollitt. So the auditor is an important feature in this ordinance because every department in the city, every department is required to meet certain reporting standards every year. And those standards in the ordinance that we're working on the rules and regulations on how it's implemented at the local level, but it has to do with training, promotion, safety, and those components are all in there. Now, what we're finding in the work, and Cheryl can attest to this, is that it really doesn't get at in the workforce where harassment is existing because it's too hard to define. But we're not content with that explanation. We're looking for objective, observable, measurable identifiers to add to those regulations. Anyway, in those regulations and those meetings, we have not only worked on the ordinance, but we've worked on the regulations and then the reporting. And each year, every department head will send their report to the auditor, not to the city manager, but to the auditor. and then it'll come back to the Kansas City Human Rights Commission and to our task force. We are a part of the Kansas City Human Rights Commission, and we are in the budget of the Civil Rights and Equal Opportunity Department. And Cheryl, did you want to add anything more about those meetings that we're talking about, the internal workings of how this is going to play out in the coming year?
I think you've covered it very well, Alice. It is very complex and it is very interesting and who knew that all of this stuff is taking place? And it's really wonderful to see that the city is.
And remember that they can't hear you on the Zoom.
So sorry. I think Alice covered it all very well. It is interesting to see that our city is taking human rights at all levels so seriously, and I'm very proud of it. And I'm certainly proud of Alice for getting this going and getting the city council in gear and getting an ordinance passed. So I think we're in good hands, but we've got a lot of work to do.
And we are a part of it. The league is a strong part of that. And lastly, Raina Park Shaw supported our interest in getting the Pregnant Worker Fairness Act from the federal level down to the city level with enforcement. So every employer in Kansas City that has more than 6 employees are obligated to provide provisions, accommodations for pregnant workers. So she got that passed in 1 month. We are so fortunate to have a good working team, and I mean city manager, staff, and HR, and so forth. So thank you all for your participation and being a part of what we're doing.
Thank you, Alice and Cheryl and all the others. I'm going to go ahead and let Cheryl come up and tell you about a wonderful program that she and others are putting together as part of the Women's Equality Coalition.
Thank you. I've got flyers for the events. Alice again is our superstar. She is one of the founders of the Women's Equality Coalition, and they worked with various women's organizations throughout the city. It started in 2012. And since then, depending on the number of organizations and the time that they had available, they've had any number of events. Sometimes, you know, somebody said almost 20, and this year we've got 4, which is kind of a manageable number. So starting with Sunday, the Kansas suffrage movement, most of these are on Zoom, a couple of them are in person only. Monday, stories of the earliest Black suffragists, Black women worked for decades beyond 1920 to get the right to vote. You know, our country has been amazingly wonderful and amazingly disappointing at times. And Dr. Carmeletta Williams, who's the executive director of the Black Archives of Mid-America, is fabulous. She tells a great story, and it's very interesting. Swiftynomics for all you Swifties out there. And you can bring a friendship bracelet or not. We have incredible people in our area. The woman who wrote a book called Swiftynomics, how women, including Beyonce, are rewriting the American economic playbook. She's a professor, an economics professor at KU, and lives in Overland Park. She's going to be at the Plaza Library on Tuesday, the 26th. And then Wednesday, the 27th, this is really wrenching. Women in War Zone, speakers from Ukraine, Palestine, Ukraine, and a global peace builder. It's part of a United Nations program. Very interesting, and I think it'll be very interesting to hear what they have to say. And then on Thursday, Diana Nguyen, the president of the League of Women Voters, is coming in, the national president. So I hope you all will be able to attend that. That's going to be at the Village Presbyterian Church at 6641 Mission Road, just straight off of 75th and down to 66. The doors open at 5:30 and the presentation is at 6. And we'll have the Zoom link available. It'll be on the league's website. We've been wrestling with Zoom a little bit ourselves, so we think that's all squared away now, but the absolute correct link will be on the website. So I've got flyers, I'll pass them around. If you've got any questions, please let me know. And by the way, Melanie is going to be Diana Wynn's host while she's here. She'll be taking her around and we'll be showing her Kansas City and taking her to all the events. So I hope you can join us on the 20th.
And if you can't join us, Diana is scheduled to be on the Steve Kratzky show
Okay.
that Thursday morning between the 9 and the 10 o'clock hour. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to have our national president here in Kansas City. So we've got some of the other state presidents coming from Missouri and from Kansas, from Johnson County and other counties. So if you can, please try to make it to the presentation. There is a time for questions and answers after the presentation. So if you have some good questions for her, now would be the time to ask. Talking about Swiftonomics, I just want to bring in another plug, and that is that Kelly Edmondson and our voter registration team is working with another person tonight. They're going to the Cyndi Lauper concert because Cyndi Lauper's tour is promoting Vote 411. So Kelly's going to be out there. We're hoping that the weather stays good for everybody. Next up, I want to introduce Claudia Horton and Sin McArdle, who are going to give us an update on the Abortion Action Missouri and what's going on.
Melanie, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, Elizabeth.
Just indicative of my knowledge of popular culture. Are we aware of another major star who has allied with any kind of organization and then supported it as she tours around? Or maybe he isn't.
Okay, Elizabeth is asking if we know of any other celebrity entertainer, somebody from the entertainment business that has aligned themselves. I'm not familiar with any right now. I know that others are active in, like Taylor Swift goes and gives money to all the food pantries of all the places that she visits, but I'm sure there's a lot of other work. Somebody else.
Courtney and I, Olivia Rodrigo is a young singer who is very, she's very vocal about the abortion issue.
Great, Olivia Rodrigo. Did I say that correctly? Thank you, is another person. So there are some out there that are doing it. Okay.
Thank you. Good morning, I'm Claudia and this is Sin. And first I want to again thank Alice and Cheryl for the work they're doing.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I'm very impressed and happy that you're doing all that work. Sin and I last week went to an Abortion Action Missouri mega training in Columbia for the day, and it was very interesting. There were 130 folks there from all over Missouri, so it was really greatly attended and really good discussion. And so we just want to give you a tiny update, but also I'm going to give you a couple of reminders of what's going on since every day something changes. And right now in Missouri, women can get safe abortions. It's legal for abortions in Missouri at this moment in time. And as you know, last fall, 1.5 million people voted to approve Amendment 3. And that meant that we would, again, continue to have abortion and to get rid of that abortion ban altogether off our books. And as you know, our legislators overruled us and took that away from us. They are, okay, not going there. And so,
Thank you.
yeah, I really want to though. Anyway, okay, that made me lose my place. So their plan is to put another deceptive, extremely deceptive issue on the ballot. If you've read it, I don't know, I'm sure it's been published someplace. I think it was in the Star actually recently. It's so deceptive. It's really reinstating the abortion ban. And so they also, are rewriting, but they also are talking about calling it Amendment 3, which will cause even more confusion.
Yes.
My thought exactly. So anyway, we have been involved with AAM and are excited about what they're planning to do so that we know that we have the opportunity to work with them and as individuals. And to really fight that and to really help people to see what they are voting on. Because what, the legislators think that we don't know what we voted on. That is their statement from anything that we win. It's like, you don't know what you're voting on. Again, not going there. But Cynthia is going to give us an update of the plan for AAM. You got a handout, looks like this. And she's going to kind of go over that with you and help you to understand what you can do to help us to move forward on this and get something honest on the ballot, as well as helping people to understand it and vote the way they really want to vote, to not reinstate that ban and to let us have the reproductive rights that we deserve.
Thanks. So, plan, you can see on the sheet here. Oh, sorry, thank you. That the whole point is we want to stop the ban. And we also want to unelect officials who do this deceitful and disrespect voters. So that is another side thing. And then build the foundation for future wins in Missouri. So that is a really well stated, these are what we need to do. But to do that, we need to recruit hundreds of volunteers who turn around and recruit thousands of volunteers. And you see that pretty colored diagram there with the green person and the orange people and then the purple people. I don't know if you guys can see this.
Really good.
There it is. But for a visual, the point of this is that we need to get people who either want to be that green person or they know someone who would be a really good green person or a pair of people that would be really good, like us. We're going to be green and we're recruiting groups already. And so what we would like to do is have you give some thought to this. And again, this does require action on our parts. And Abortion Action, I am really thrilled to see their strategic plan for 2026. It's pretty impressive. And it does include having conversations with people so that they understand that likely they may have to vote no to stop the abortion ban, because last year we voted yes. So that in itself is going to be great. It's kind of what happened in Kansas. So what I'm asking is that you get the gist of what we need. Some of the activities that they're planning, house parties where you would invite people into your home or a center or somewhere who then would, you would talk about the why and then motivate people to say, hey, I've got this whole group of people or women or men that would love to knock on doors come, October. I mean, we are moving monthly, doing things, going to Jeff City in Numbers, just a number of things that they've got planned. And summertime, they've got, I don't know, even remember what they call it, but it's, I won't even.
I forgot to.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. At any rate, but I'm just saying, I think it'll be good. And the one thing that I have really enjoyed about being an active volunteer is that I have met so many incredible people and have gained so many new relationships that I wouldn't have had. And so, yeah, it's work and it takes energy, but the payoff is so great and it helps you stay sane. Well, at least does for me. So remember, take your paper, and if you don't have one, I'll be happy to give you one. But and if you have any questions, please contact Claudia or myself by email, or you can also go to abortionactionmissouri.org to their website. You can get involved via that way and go to meetings, which they have, and they really work hard to help you feel comfortable having conversations. So that's the big, I think, obstacle in terms of feeling comfortable about talking about abortion. We've been doing
reproductive rights and all that. But the whole point of saying the word abortion is to eliminate the shame and stigma that goes with it. And that's, and there's so much that surrounds that word. I mean, we're also talking about reproductive health. So I think that it's important that we find people who would be comfortable. They don't have to be great orators, because obviously I'm not, but it is really important that we get some energy behind this, because I am going to be really angry next November if certain politicians have their way. So we have to fight that good fight. Thank you.
We have a really hard time restraining ourselves.
It can be tough. And I want to clarify that that's not this November. It's
No.
next November. Just want to clarify that. And I saw, because I notarized petitions, I know a lot of people in our league really went out and helped get signatures, and they don't have to get signatures this time.
Yeah,
It's already there. But it would be nice if we could get a lot of us to help support your group and get out there again. So thank you. Ann Calvert is going to come talk about the Peace, Love, Vote fundraiser. And I've already purchased my tickets, so limited numbers, right?
Yeah, we do think this will sell out, so you do want to get your tickets soon. Yeah, I want to invite everybody to Peace, Love, Vote, September 18th from 6 to 8:30. It's at the firehouse. The firehouse is a beautiful restored fire station on Troost. So beautiful that we hardly have to decorate in the building. So the one decoration we do have, though, are centerpieces, which will be for sale. So after the event, so you can even pre-order those. And we're going to do that in order. So the first person who pre-orders the centerpiece gets first pick. But at the party, we'll have food that's included in the price of your ticket. It was a great spread last year. We'll have mocktails, cocktails, beer and wine for sale. And I mean, not sale, we're selling tickets. We did everything legally. We have all the insurance we need. We're good. But there will also be a trivia game and then a raffle. And the raffle's really fun because we have a big table full of prizes that are kind of worth about the same amount. And if your name is drawn, you get to come and pick a prize. So please be sure that you get your tickets. I'm tempted to say buy your tickets early and often, but I think that's another phrase for another day. And also we are looking for volunteers. So we did the volunteer shifts so that you can still attend the event. If you want to purchase a ticket and go to the event, you can still do that and be a volunteer, because we don't have any volunteer shifts that are for the entire event, except for Melanie and me, and a few other people. So take a look on the volunteer page, please, and get signed up to help us with that, and come to the party. It'll be fun. Thanks.
Thank you, Ann. I see that the next thing on the agenda is committee chair call to actions, which I think is just asking if committee chairs have any statements or any reports or any need for anything at this time. I'm seeing nobody doing anything up here. Does anybody on the Zoom have any reports they want to make? While they're doing that, I did think of one thing, and I know Cheryl sent this, and I've been sent it by several other people. If you remember right, we had a guest speaker from the Women's Jewish Association, I can't think of her name, last year, that talked to us about getting the senior citizens tax passed. And it did. They are forming right now the board that will oversee the distribution of the funds for that money. And they're looking for people that might have knowledge of grant money, maybe social work, working with seniors to apply to be on that board. So if you know anybody or you're interested in doing that, I would urge you to apply. I know I don't have the knowledge, but we might have others in our league that do. Does anybody have anything else that they want to bring up today? Janelle has her hand up. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Just when we were talking about committees and chairs, I would just ask that we put a plug out there for a couple of chair seats that are open right now, with the Observer Corps and also with Get Out the Vote, which are two important committees that do great work. And especially Observer Corps has so many members who are doing the work that a chair, just helps to organize. So I would just encourage you, if you're interested, to reach out to me at vice-president at lwvkc.org, or feel free to send a message via the website.
Okay, thank you. And Janelle, I'll repeat that out to you. There are certain areas, certain committees that can use help. And under Janelle's, as vice president, she's vice president of engagement. Get Out the Vote, GOTV, which is an extremely important thing, especially at election time. Could use some leaders, co-leaders, group of leaders, but it could use some people that are willing to kind of step up and help organize and delegate other leaders when it comes to that. So if you might be interested, at least in finding out more about what they do, talk to Janelle. And also Corinne Page, who was the former chair, has said that she would be willing to sit down and talk to anybody to give them more information and to help them get something going with that. Also under Janelle's is forums, is currently looking for people to learn. I mean, the forums is one of the biggest and most important committees of this league in educating voters on their candidates. And so it's a very important committee, and they need people as well to help step up and help them run the forums, organize the forums, and so on. And again, talk to Janelle. Observer Corps, it's always in need of observers, and they are the ones that are observing our local and our county committees and people and the work that they're doing out there. So again, important work through all of these committees that need some volunteers. Under Judy Ann, we have people needed for social media, for PR marketing. We have somebody working on the e-voter, thanks to some of you and stuff, but all of these groups can use more people and more insight. And I mean, it just helps having more people involved in making the decisions and helping put things out there. I'm trying to think. So social media, PR marketing, and the e-voter technology. You've seen our group working here today. They might want more, they might not, but technology here. If you know of somebody that's a good website designer or something, come talk to me, talk to others, talk to Judy Ann. So anybody else on Zoom? All right, well, if that's it, then I'm going to say that the meeting today is going to be adjourned, and I want to thank everybody for coming in person or on Zoom. I hope to see a lot of you at the presentation by Diana Nguyen on that Thursday. If you can't attend in person, please do it by Zoom. And again, that information is going to be on our website. But thanks to all of the great women, sorry, men, but the great women that spoke today about what they're doing and helping the league today. So, thank you. I want handouts. I didn't get any of the handouts. So.
Yeah.
I think I got They have handouts.
Don't forget to give us your name tags. Please don't go home with them.